Hello, everyone. I am Amy Ford with Embrace Grace, and I am here to talk today about pro love and just getting involved. And I know you're coming to the end of your conference, and I know they strategically put this one more towards the end because just really thinking about the change that we want to be in the world. And that has been on my heart for a while now. A little bit about me: I had an unplanned pregnancy when I was 19. And I was so scared to tell my parents. I thought they were going to hate me. And, the enemy lies to you in that situation. And you think of every worst case scenario that can possibly happen. And I thought my parents were going to hate me. My life was over. The father of the baby felt the same way as well. And I ended up actually hyperventilating and passing out in the abortion room right before I was about to have it done. I'd already paid for it and everything. And I passed out. And when I came to, the nurses were fanning me, trying to give me a drink of water. And they said, "You're too emotionally distraught to make this decision today. You can come back another day, but today you're not getting an abortion." And so I just went back out in the waiting room, and my face was super swollen from crying so hard. I looked, the father of the baby was out there, and we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay, so if we are going to do this, we're going to figure it out together. And if we're going to be homeless, all of those terrible things, we're just going to like push through. And so we ended up going to our parents, telling them it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. You always think of the worst thing, but it wasn't as bad as we thought. They definitely were disappointed in the timing, but of everything, not being married. And Ryan was my high school sweetheart. And we actually ended up getting married when I was 16 weeks pregnant. And we had asked the man that had led my husband to the Lord if he would marry us. And he had led my husband to the Lord years before. And he said, "No, I'm sorry. I can't marry you because you've sinned. And so I will not bless this marriage." And we were just like, oh my gosh, like we're such terrible people. We can't even get married right. Like just so much shame. And we ended up finding someone else that would marry us, but it definitely felt like a scarlet letter, on our wedding day. And so that was really hard. And then we tried to go back to church, but it's like the elephant in the room, and people don't know whether to say congratulations or I'm sorry. So they don't say anything. And then you just feel alone in a crowd of people. And so we really just stopped going because we didn't really like the way it made us feel when we went. And I'm a super extrovert personality. And so it's kind of obvious when all of a sudden my friends are sort of distancing themselves and not talking as much. So it's kind of a lonely season, and I ended up having a son who is totally amazing. And he actually now is 22. He just graduated from college. He went to Oral Roberts University and got his degree in theology, and with a passion with evangelism. That's what he's most passionate about. So he really specialized in that. And he has such a passion for the Lord, and he wants to make heaven crowded, and it's just totally awesome. And he actually just got married as well. So I can't imagine my life without him. And so I ended up having 3 more kids. We have 4 kids, and me and my husband have been married for 22, 23 years. So everything's great. But along the way, all of this, it just really helped me realize the importance of the church and how the church, and when I say the church, it doesn't necessarily even mean the building. Like the building, yes, is important too, can play a role, like the people, coming to the church, but really just us being the church and being God's hands and feet as we're out and about. And so that pastor that wouldn't marry us, though, he actually ended up calling my husband out of the blue 2 years later when my son was 2. He called my husband and he said, "Will you forgive me? I feel like it's my worst mistake in pastoring history that I've ever made. And I think about it all the time. Will you forgive me?" And my husband, who still just loves this guy, he's like, "Yes, I forgive you. You're amazing." And they're still such great friends to this day. He lives about 4 hours from us out in Austin, Texas. And so we sometimes get to see him, but they talk on the phone all the time. Like they're really such great friends. And even fast forward a little bit more, when my son was 16, that pastor asked us to come to Austin to speak at his church about pro-love. And he was very open with his congregation before I had gotten there about what he had done years ago. He said that he had a religious spirit, a Pharisee heart, all of that. And he was, talking about Embrace Grace and things like that. So I came Mother's Day, did my thing, did my pro-love message. And then afterwards he came back on the platform and he's like, Amy, I would like for you to come back up here. And I would like to ask your son, Jess, to come up here. And again, he was 16 years old. And he said, Amy, years ago, I asked your husband for forgiveness, but I never really asked you. Will you forgive me for what I did years ago? I was like, yes, of course. I forgave you such a long time ago. Yes. And he said, and then he just looked at my son, 16, in front of the whole church. And he said, Jess, will you forgive me for planting seeds of rejection in your heart before you were ever even born? And while you were in your mother's womb, I rejected you. Will you forgive me? And my son, 16, in front of the whole church says, I forgive you. And it was such a powerful moment. Like you could just feel church wounds being lifted in the room. And it was just amazing to see. And it just really got me thinking about like, things might have been a little different if when I found out I was pregnant, that the first thought I would have had, knowing that I had grown up in church my entire life, and all of that, that if I had thought, maybe I'll get some help from the church. Maybe I'll go ask them for help, for wisdom, for prayer, for guidance, all of that stuff. But it was the last place I wanted to go to. And so our heart is that we want to change that. We want the church to be one of the first places a girl runs to instead of the last because of shame and guilt. And we just really feel like it's important too to have abortion healing groups in every church, and that pastors should be talking about it. Like it doesn't have to be a whole sermon on abortion, but it can be something where we have hope and healing for you. One time I was talking to one of my friends who is a pro-life atheist. She runs Pro-Life San Francisco. She's amazing. And she asked me to come speak at Berkeley College. They were going to have speakers there all day, different pro-life speakers. And so she asked me to be one of them. And I said, yeah, I can do that. But, I talk about God and I talk about the church. Like, is that going to be an issue considering you're an atheist, all of that? And she's like, no, it's not an issue. She said, I don't believe in your God, but I believe in the power of your people. And if you can get your people to actually do something, this issue wouldn't be an issue anymore. I was like, oh my goodness, that is a lot. That is so true, because there are over 300,000 churches in America. And so if we were all doing something, doing our part, we really could make abortion unthinkable. And she said, we have the manpower on our side. Like we could make abortion unthinkable because we've got the people. And so I think that a lot of people just kind of get hung up on for a few different reasons as far as getting involved in the movement. I know as for me, I grew up in church my entire life and had no idea that there was a pro-life movement. If someone said the words pro-life movement, I would have just thought, oh, they probably mean people picketing outside abortion clinics. So I just, that's the only thing I thought of. Like, I had no idea that there was so many amazing organizations that are out there that are boots on the ground and that are actually doing something to help these women. And even when I had my unplanned pregnancy myself, I went straight to the abortion clinic because I just didn't know. And so the first time that I ever realized that there was a pro-life movement, we started Embrace Grace, which, side note, Embrace Grace is a ministry where we have support groups for girls, for churches to have for the girls with unplanned pregnancies. So if a girl finds out she's pregnant, we want her to join an Embrace Grace support group. She gets a baby shower, she gets loved on, she gets discipled, and all of that. And she meets other girls going through the same thing that she is. And we're a national ministry. So we're in almost 700 churches, 47 states, and 10 countries that do Embrace Grace groups. And so I started Embrace Grace as a small group at my church, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then I had a book release. My first book, A Bump in Life, came out. And so I was starting to get a little bit of TV stuff and speaking and things like that. And an organization that probably a lot of you have heard of called CareNet asked me to come speak at their conference. And I literally had never heard of them. And I got there and I was just completely shocked because they had hundreds of vendors, of people that are boots on the ground, making a difference in the world and helping making abortion unthinkable. And so I was like, how have I never heard of all of this? I've gone to church my entire life and had no idea that there was so many amazing people that are doing this great work and that are helping people. And like, how can more people know about this and get involved in something like this? And it was just amazing. I was just completely blown away. And so I think that a lot of people don't really just know where to start. You know, they want to do more, but they don't know where to start. And then the other side of it is also maybe they feel disqualified from ministry or serving because of maybe their past experience. Maybe sometimes they feel like, well, I never really had an unplanned story. So I don't know that that I should get involved because I can't connect or relate to them in that way. Or I hear some people say, well, I've had an abortion in my past, and so I feel disqualified because of that. And so I just want to encourage anyone that's listening, don't let either of those be a reason to not get involved, because God is who qualifies you. I remember one time I was speaking at this conference it was a big women's conference called Pink Impact, and it was at a big convention center, and there were 10,000 women in attendance. And I was being interviewed by the host about Embrace Grace, and it was just kind of a Q&A back and forth. And we were pretty much done and talking about Embrace Grace. I always talk about, moms that choose life are brave, all this stuff. Well, at the end, she was like, thank you so much, Amy, for being here today. And there was just something that sort of like prompted I knew I was the Holy Spirit, like prompted my heart I said, hold on, can I say one more thing? I said, there's over 10,000 women in this arena. And that means at least 2,500 of you have experienced an abortion, because 1 in 4 women have experienced an abortion. And that God wants you to know that he loves you and he wants to heal your heart. Even this weekend at this conference, he wants to start the healing process in your heart, and that you're not disqualified for ministry. You are qualified. And that Revelation 12:11 says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So go share your story with someone, even if it's just one person, because that's also how God heals, is through us telling our story. What we bring into the light is what God heals. What we keep in the darkness is where shame and the enemy, lies to us. And so that was it. It was just like three or four sentences that I said at the very end. And then it was, thank you so much, for having me today. Goodbye. And I went back out to my booth afterwards. Since it was such a big arena, we had 2 booths at 2 different places in this arena. And we were just completely blown away. We could not believe the amount of women at our booth. Some wouldn't talk to us, but you could just see the look in their eye. Some just, you could see mascara, a little bit under their eyes, just completely just not, it was almost like a look in their eye of like, thank you for seeing us, because it wasn't a big sermon about abortion, but it was just something where they felt seen. But I remember specifically these 3 women that came to me, and it was just right after that session. They were all wearing matching t-shirts. They were sisters, and they had like created these custom t-shirts for this weekend fun, women's conference. And so the one in the middle, though, they were like holding her up, and she was crying really hard and super emotional. And one of the sisters that I brought her to me, she's like, hey, she really wanted to come see you, and what you said really touched her. And she's kind of, a little emotional right now, but she would like to talk to you. And so we kind of waited for her to collect her, emotions and thoughts. And but I will never forget this. She looked at me and she said, with tears streaming down her face, and she said, do you mean to tell me that God can use me? It was like, the look on her face was like, it was something that had never registered with her, like that she could actually be used by God, because she felt in her heart that she couldn't because of her past abortion story. And freedom happened in that moment. It was amazing. And now She got our information, and I never looked back to see if she ever started a group, but there was something that happened in her heart. And I think there's so many women and men that are in our pews that feel the same way, and that feel like they're disqualified or that they can't tell anyone. And really, just even leading an Embrace Grace group or leading an abortion healing group, getting connected with support after abortion, or at your local pregnancy center or maternity home, or whatever creative way God downloads into your heart to help women, like, to really step out and just do it and watch what doors open up. And it doesn't matter if you don't have an unplanned story, because we all have a story of grace, and we all have a story of what God has done in our lives. And our stories can change people, and they can make a big difference in our lives. And so I've seen it over and over again, the transformation that happens, not only for the girls that are affected and hear the stories, but for the storyteller, and the one that is being vulnerable and authentic in the way she shares her story. And looking to see, especially for any of you that have experienced an abortion, to really think about, what do you feel like that you needed in your life when you made your abortion decision? Who did you need in your life? What was that person? Like, what do you feel like you would have needed, if you would have had a car? Maybe you can help raise money to donate a car to a single mom. Did you feel like, if you had a better job, well, maybe you can help a single mom with her resume, or getting cute clothes together for a good interview, or helping her get her GED, or whatever that might look like, so she can get a better job? Did you feel like you needed a friend, that you need someone to connect to? Lead an Embrace Grace group. Did you feel like that you wish that you had known about a pregnancy center in your area that would have, like, told you all about the options, and helped you be more educated about what an abortion is? Go serve at your local pregnancy center. Really dig into, what do you feel like, and who do you feel like you needed during that time? Because that, if we're all tapping into that, we really can make abortion unthinkable. And I believe it wholeheartedly, that we really can, because we've got the manpower on our side. And if we can really um, even just help women and men that have experienced an abortion, help them be set free, whether it's talking about your own abortion story or leading an abortion healing support group, because free people, and it's contagious. And so the more, we could create a Me Too movement with our abortion healing stories. And just, it takes one person to be bold and to share their story. And also, just to be always on the lookout for women with unexpected pregnancies. I ask God all the time, will you show me, someone today that I need to talk to or love on, whether they're pregnant or not? But He knows that my heart is for pregnant moms. And He has really given us some really awesome opportunities to love on people in that way. And also, just in case some of you are like, what do you mean by pro-love? So we believe that pro-life is a stance, it's a way to vote, and it's a belief or whatever, but pro-love is an action. And we can make abortion unthinkable because of action, because it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. It's His goodness that draws us to His side. And so, how can we help with using our love and being the hands and feet of Jesus? Like, sometimes when we're out and about, this is an opportunity for someone to know what it's like for Jesus to walk by as we're talking to the people around us, and interacting with people. But God's bringing us people all the time. And I remember one time we had a girl who, she had an unplanned pregnancy, and she had a dad, she was raised by her dad. Her mom left when she was 2 weeks old, and she never had any siblings. So it was her and her dad growing up. And she ended up finding out she was pregnant. She was totally freaking out. She told her dad, and he said, "You're going to be a horrible mom. You cannot have this baby." The baby dad was in jail, not in the picture at all. And she just felt completely alone. He said that you can have an abortion or you can do adoption, but you're not going to parent this baby. And looking back, like, knowing that the mom left when she was 2 weeks old, apparently she was addicted to drugs and had mental health issues. And so he had some wounds there with his wife leaving, him leaving her baby with him, which was his daughter too, but still, like, him being a single dad his whole life. So he had his own wounds that he was speaking from as he was trying to encourage his daughter, but not in a good way. And so she was so scared. And so she worked at a UPS store, And one day she went to work and she was like, God, I'm so scared. I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. If you can hear me, is there a way you could bring me someone that has a box with the word church on the label? And that will be like the just the confirmation that I need that they're a safe person to talk to, because I literally don't know who to talk to right now. And so she goes into work, and as she's working, here comes a guy with a box with the word church on the label. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, do you work at a church?" And he's like, "No." He said, "My company makes websites for churches." And she's like, "Oh." And he could see the disappointment, in her face. And he's like, "Well, I go to church." And she said, "You do?" And that was her cue. She just let it all out and just crying and just pouring her heart out to this random stranger in the UPS store. And I know this guy, he's the dad of 4 boys. So he was just like, "I don't know what's happening right now. I'm just trying to ship a package." But he was super encouraging to her. And he's like, "I think our church has something. Let me have your information. I'll have my wife call you and we'll see what we can find and we'll see what kind of help that we can give." And so she went through, so she got connected to us, and she was sitting next to me in this class. She was kind of the new girl, and she was sitting next to me, and I'll never forget something that she had said, because the other girls had already been there for 3 classes, so she was new. And so she was telling all the girls about the UPS story and what had happened, and I'll never forget what she said. Um she was telling the girls, she said, "My dad said that he thinks I'll be a horrible mom, but that guy at the UPS store said he thought I would be a good mom." And I was just trying to register exactly what she was saying, like a perfect stranger that she most likely will never meet again did something that he probably didn't think twice about. He just was the first thing that came to his mind. "Well, I think you'll be a great mom." And that was literally all she had to hold on to. Like, that was it. And she just held on to that, and that was the encouragement and the fire that she needed. And then she got plugged into Embrace Grace, and then getting a part of Single Parent Family Ministries, and she had a son, and she's such a great mom. And even the dad thought so too. Her dad, he fell in love with this little boy. He ended up passing away a couple years ago, but he's just like was so proud of her. And there was even this baby even just brought healing to their family, and it was just so sweet. And one time I was at a Sonic, and I've had Embrace Grace girls work at Sonic, and sometimes they've complained that people don't tip. And so I try to only go to Sonic if I have cash, because at Sonic you can swipe a card to pay, but it doesn't have a tip line on the card. So basically, if you want to tip Sonic, you have to have cash. I thought I had cash in my wallet, and I didn't. And so but I thought I did. So I paid, I got slushies for all the kids. It was happy hour. I live in Texas. And so those half price slushies were, it was hot and we needed some. So I paid, and I'm digging around in my wallet for cash, did not have any. And I was like, "Oh no." And here comes this cute girl that brings all our slushies. And I said, "I am so sorry. I thought I had cash to give you a tip, but I don't. But I'll go to the ATM machine and I'll go get you some, and I'll bring it back." And she's like, "No, you don't have to do that. But if you want to, you can." And I was like, "Yes, I'll go get you some." So I go and get her some cash and come back. And when I come back, I said, "Hey, what's your name?" And she said, "My name's Zoe." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I love that name. Did you know that your name means life?" And I know this because with my 4th son, my 4th child, is before I knew he was a boy. He's about 1 now. And so, but when I was pregnant with him, before I knew he was a boy, I had picked Zoe as the girl name if I was going to have a girl. And I said I'd done a lot of research on it, and it means like the heavenly realm of life. It means the John 10:10, the John 3:16, like not just survival life, but like the heavenly realm of life. Did you know that your name means that? And she was like, "No." And then she looked at me and said, "So you have a baby?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, he's kind of getting to be a little bit bigger of a baby, but yes, I've got a baby." And she said, "Me and my boyfriend just found out we're pregnant, and I'm a little nervous. Like, do you have any advice for me?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, God, you are so amazing." So, and she was barely like, there was no way I could have saw that physically. She wasn't showing far enough to know that. And I just was so thankful that God brought her to me. So I ended up getting her plugged into an Embrace Grace group and got her connected to the local pregnancy center. She ended up having a boy. So she ended up getting like my son's hand-me-downs. And I was at her wedding. I was at her birth. Like, it was just so amazing that I get to do life with this girl named Zoe that is such a blessing to me that I might not have ever knew, that how amazing she is. Like, I would have missed out on such a great opportunity. And God is bringing us people all the time. Like, he is for us, and he is for these moms, and he loves these moms. And I love even the first single mom in the Bible is Hagar. And, she was kind of sent away with her son, Ishmael, and she didn't have any water for her son. Or, there's one part where she's crying out to God, and he answered her prayer and he gave her son some water. And I love that the first single mom in the Bible refers to God as the God who sees. How amazing is that? That God sees these girls. He sees these single mamas. He's got such a heart for them. And then to think about little Ishmael, the first son, or child that's raised by a single mom that's listed in the Bible, that his name means God hears. So he hears the cries and the prayers of these children, that are raised by single mamas and are doing the best they can. But when we have the church supporting them and walking alongside them, they feel empowered to do the things that God's called us to do. Just this past week, I was talking to an Embrace Grace alumni from 10 years ago, and I'm just so blown away by her. When she was 17, she ran away from home and she was trafficked. 2 days later, picked up by a pimp, and she was brainwashed. He told her, "I will kill your family if you leave," all of this stuff, if you try to leave. And she was stuck with him for 7 or 8 years, and then ended up going to prison for tax evasion. And he had told her, "If you rat me out, because of the money that you're getting," even though she had to give it all back to him every time anyways, he didn't want to go to prison for, being for what he's doing. And so he said, "If you tell them, that where you're getting your money from, I will kill you and I will kill your family," all of that stuff. So she never would rat him out. And so she ended up going to prison for 13 months and has a felony on her record. She got her GED when she was in prison. When she got out, she ended up even going back to him because he visited her every single day and said, I will kill your family if you don't come back to me." So she went back for a few years and she finally broke away. And when she did, she ended up in the arms of another man and ended up getting pregnant. And that was when she was like, "I got to go back home." So she went home to her family, to Texas. And that weekend that she came home, her parents were going to church and they said, "Why don't you come with us?" And she was so exhausted, but she was like, "Okay, I'll come." And so she went, and then she went down front for prayer afterwards. And when she went down front for prayer, she said, "I'm pregnant and I am scared and I don't know what to do." And the pastor that prayed over her, she knows all about Embrace Grace. She's on our board, which we go to a huge church. So even just God, like connecting, like that's who prayed for her. So she got her connected to Embrace Grace. And 2 days later, she was in the class, and it was like the foundation of her healing that started in Embrace Grace. She got her baby shower. She got all the stuff that she needed for her son. And so then she ended up going through Embrace Grace. Then she got in Embrace Life, which is our program for young single moms. Then she got connected into the single parent family ministry of our church. During that, someone gave her a car, a Volkswagen Passat with over 200,000 miles on it. And she was so ecstatic because she's like, "It was my first asset. I have an asset." And she would have never been able to get a car like that in her name because her pimp had totally destroyed her credit. And so she could never, like, that would be really hard for her to do, to be able to get a car. And then the church started paying for her tuition. And then they started paying for her $1,500 a month towards her bills so that she could just go hard with her classes, do as many classes as she can, and the rest of the time focus on her son. So she didn't have she had like a small side job, but besides that, the church just really supported her so she could do this. She ended up getting a pro bono attorney, that just someone that went to the church and was very passionate about her and just saw something amazing about her. And he said, I want to donate my attorney services to you to help you with all of this legal stuff. And it was just so amazing. And so she started just really raising her kid in the church. I mean, everything was a church. She also did a program called Mending the Soul, which is extreme healing ministry. And she needed a lot of healing doing the things that she had been doing for the past 10 years. And she ended up getting her college degree. Then she got her master's degree in criminal law. And just this past December 29th, just this past couple months ago, right before President Trump was finished being in office, he gave her a presidential pardon. And so her felony was completely off her record. And we all were just blown away. And I remember one of the media news places, tried to get a statement, from her. And she said, I was blown away when she said this. She said, now nothing can hold me back. And I was just so like, oh my gosh, if this is what being held back looks like, girl, you are going to change the world. And so she became right before this, she became the director of a anti-sex trafficking organization. And now she has transitioned to working for a philanthropist that funds anti-sex trafficking organizations. She speaks in front of police and trains them on how to look for the victims of women that have been trafficked. She, her philanthropist that she worked for just threw her a presidential pardon party at her mansion. And it was so fun going to, and it was just so amazing. There was even young girls that she had just helped rescue out of the system. And everybody got to stand up and talk about how Becca had affected their life in some way. And these girls that were like, Becca sat with me in my court cases and helped give me wisdom and counsel on how to move through, because I was a victim. All these girls were victims, but yet they were treated as criminals. And so everybody was crying. It was so amazing. And God started showing me, I was thinking about how does the guy that donated the car with 200,000 miles on it, does he know that he had a part in changing the world? Does the person who bought her diapers at her baby shower or her car seat, do they know that they had a part in changing the world? Does the Embrace Grace leader, does the pro bono attorney, does the pastor who she talked to at the front, and got her connected to Embrace Grace? I mean, all of these people, it was not one person. It was not one organization that changed her life. It was a community of people. And that is what church is. We don't kick each other when we fall. We pick each other up and we empower each other. And because of all the support and the love and the family of the church, she has saved so many lives. She is a world changer, and we have a part in changing the world because of the small part we played in her walk of getting restored and healed and set free and empowered to do the things that God's called her to do. And that's all of us. We all have something we can give. And I encourage anyone that's listening, please, I don't have it in front of me, but my new book, Help Her Be Brave, Discover Your Place in the Pro-Life Movement. It just released in January by Moody Publishing, and it has over 300 ideas on how you can get involved in the movement. If you're just like, I don't know, I don't even know what organizations are out there or what's going to connect, what would I connect to? There's great ideas and they're great stories. And then also, our new website, helperbebrave.com, actually has a quiz that you can take on the website where it'll ask you questions about what gets you excited. How are you wired? Are you more nurturing? Are you more conversational? Are you more like an advocate and you love social media influencing? Are you more strategic or analytical? Asking all of these questions about the way you're made. And then after you take the quiz, the results are emailed to you, and it gives you ideas that are specifically connected to the way that you're wired. Some ideas is just start, just get involved, even if it's one little thing, and see what God does, because he's going to open more and more doors. I think sometimes we get hung up because we think, oh, I have to start this pro-life organization, or maybe you want to, but you're like, well, I need, $50,000 to start. And so you just don't do anything because you don't have that. But I think with all of us, God is asking us, what do we have in our hand right now? What resources, what time? If you want to open a maternity home someday, but you don't have the funds to do it, what do you have right now? Do you have a couch? Do you have that a girl can sleep on? Do you have an extra seat at your table that she can come sit at? Just start with what you have and watch the doors open up. We get hung up because we think we have to figure out what step 10 is, or 20 or 30, when really we only have to figure out step 1. And whatever that is, what the thing that God is calling us to do right now. And if we're obedient with step 1, he will show us the next and the next and the next. The scripture says that his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light into our path. And if you think about a lamp around your feet, like if it's dark out, which we know the world is a dark place, if it's dark and you just have a little lamp around your feet, you really can only see the glow probably of just your one step. And that's all we need right now. Take that one step and then watch the doors open for step 2, step 3, step 4. And he'll show you, he'll lead you, he'll guide you, and he is who equips you. So many, even with leading Embrace Grace, we talk to women all the time and they just feel like, I don't know, I've never taught anything before, or I don't know if they'll like me, or I promise you, they will love you. They just want someone to listen to them and to feel seen and heard, just like with Hagar in the Bible. They want to feel seen, and you can play a part in doing that. I love that. Just this last week, I saw, and we have an Embrace Grace leaders page, and that's private. And one of the leaders had said that she was teaching chapter 4, which chapter 4 is just all about God's love. Like, God loves you so much. They're telling these single and pregnant moms, like, it's just over and over and over again, drilling in, like, he created you, he loves you, you're a masterpiece, all of this. And the leader had said, I kind of felt a little bit discouraged at first because it kind of just seemed like they had a blank stare, like they just didn't know, like what I was saying. And she said when she got home, she was praying about it, and the Lord showed her, he said, it's like you're telling them that a perfect stranger is madly in love with them. And it's hard for them to wrap their brain around it. But as they get to know me more, they're going to feel it and see it for themselves. And she's starting to see, that happen in them. And it's beautiful to watch. I promise you, getting involved in this movement, you're going to have front row seats to miracles. Sometimes it's really hard. We hear some messy stories, but it is going to, like, just make you so passionate. If you talk to Janine and Lisa, all of these people on support after abortion, you can tell when you talk to them, like, they've got that fire, like they are so excited because they know that they're seeing freedom happen. And just follow what that is for you. What makes you pound your fist on the table and say, someone has to do something about this? Someone, and whatever that thing is, whatever that is, follow that, because that someone most likely is you, and that God put that in your heart so that you would follow that and be obedient to the stirring. I read one pastor one time use the words, he actually has a book, it's called Holy Discontent. Follow that holy discontent. What is that thing that's just like, oh, something needs to change here? Follow it and see what other people are doing. You can either get connected to what other organizations are doing in that area, or do something on your own. You don't have to necessarily connect to an organization. You could help a single mom take out her trash. You can babysit her kids sometimes to give her a break. I know my husband, he loves finances and he wants to help, if any moms just get stuck on how to move forward with their finances, they don't really know how to balance a checkbook or whatever that might look like. He loves helping in that way. Whatever it is, whatever strength, passion, gift that you have, follow that and watch the lives that change. And so, again, helperbebrave.com, check that out. It's got the quiz, you can take it. Also, embracegrace.com, that's a great first place to start. Lead an Embrace Grace group at your church. It's digital curriculum, so you don't even really have to teach it. You just press play. We give you the discussion questions, we give you the handouts, like everything you could ever need at your church or parish. You can start an Embrace Grace group or an Embrace Life group for single young moms. And then we just are launching this week Embrace Legacy for dads, which we are so pumped about. We need more fathers. So if there's any men that are listening, or women that have husbands that want to get involved too, lead an Embrace Legacy a group at your church or parish as well. We're really excited about the transformation that's going to happen there. And so I just want to thank everyone that is watching and listening today, either today or in the future, if this is going to get saved. And I just want to encourage all of you to just be bold and courageous, and that God is with you. He is for you. He's not going to put this passion in your heart to do something, but then just leave you on your own. He's going to be with you every step of the way. He's so proud of you, and you are amazing. And we would love to hear even the stories of what you're doing to make a difference. Also, one other thing, Help Her Be Brave podcast show is also really fun, because you can watch it on YouTube or you can listen to it on iTunes and Spotify. And there are great guests and all kinds of great things that you can hear different ways people are getting involved in the movement. So thank you guys so much for everything. We used to give pregnancy centers flyers to talk about Embrace Grace, but these girls are kind of in trauma mode. They're freaking out. They don't know what they're going to do. And so it's just another piece of paper that may end up in the floorboard of their car, where we came up with a love box because we were like, this is the cutest box ever. Like, how can we get her the support that she needs through the box? Like, she's not going to throw this away. It's so cute. It has a onesie inside that says best gift ever. It has a journal about being brave and fearless. It has my first book, A Bump in Life, True Stories of Hope and Courage During an Unplanned Pregnancy. And it just is full of stories of girls that chose life. There's 20 stories. So it's girls that are preachers' kids, girls that were date raped, girls that placed their baby for adoption, girls that were on drugs, just every kind of scenario that could possibly happen is there. And we've heard girls say, you know, I read this book and this chapter really connected with me. And if that girl sounds like my story, and if God did that for her, then maybe God will do that for me too. And it's giving them helping them feel empowered to choose life through that book. And then it has even another way to get involved. It has Dear Brave Girl letters that are inside the book. And inside the box. So you can go to that love box tab on embracegrace.com and you can click the letters and you can print them out on your own printer. It says Dear Brave Girl at the top, and you can handwrite letters. You can speak life into someone that just found out they're pregnant, and they can and you can write as many. You can write one, you can write 50. You can get your life group, home group, office, you know, your family to write these letters and then send them back to our national office in Texas. We read them all and make sure that they're encouraging, and then we put them into the boxes. And it's just an awesome ministry to there's a lot of different things utilizing the Love Box initiative through Embrace Grace Ministries. There's lots of ways to get involved, and plus even churches do sometimes share the love events where you can we can send unassembled boxes to your church, and you can have a big outreach event where you're packaging them and you're writing the letters and you're putting it all together, and then you take all these boxes and you donate them to your local pregnancy center. And that is super important, because really basically it's an invitation once they get that box to go back to your church. It's an invitation for the mom to get it, and then they get to come back to your church and they feel loved and welcomed there. So those are amazing too, that love box. And plus, if you guys just know someone that has an unplanned pregnancy and they have an abortion scheduled, or they just need hope and courage, you can call our office anytime and say, hey, I know someone, and we will overnight it to you if we need to for free. We will mail it to you or directly to the girl, whatever you feel like is, you know, sometimes people want it themselves so that they can walk it over there and give it to her in person and have an opportunity to speak life into what they're like just in that moment of crisis. Sometimes it's better, you could get a box, or you can actually give it to someone and sit with her as she opens it, and you can encourage her in that situation. So we're happy to send them to anyone that needs it at all. And then also the next chapter is Protect Her. And so some of you are just really amazing at social media. You're like social media advocates, or you just really are great at defending women and men that need support and help. Maybe you're kind of more in the political realm, which is super important too. How are ways that you can use that, using your platform, using your voice to save lives? Just like Esther, you know, she stood up for her people, and how we can do that for these moms as well. And what can that look like if you have a bold voice? Being able to protect her in that way is huge. Or even just encouraging our politicians that are pro-life politicians that are doing the hard work. Like I've heard them say that we get so much hate mail that when an actual mail that comes that is like, thank you for this or thank you for that, just means the world to them. So those are super important. One of my friends Lauren McAfee, she's a part of the Hobby Lobby family, and she had a big pro-life court case, and y'all probably all know about that. When the Hobby Lobby went to court about the abortificants and the with the health insurance and all of that stuff, and it's kind of a mess. You can research it, but one thing she said was it meant so much to her to see pro-life supporters that were outside the Supreme Court holding up signs saying, we're praying for you, we're in this with you. She's like, it just meant so much to her to have that support and knowing people were advocating for her outside the walls. And that's even a creative way. Like, all of us have ways that we can show support to each other. The next chapter is love her. How can we help her heal? A lot of these women and men need emotional healing. Embrace Grace is a great place to start, but there's sometimes we, get her connected to counselors in your area. I know for our ministry, we have a local Christian college that for women and men that are about to graduate in counseling for their practicum, they do free counseling for Embrace Grace moms. And it is a win for the Embrace Grace moms, and it's a win for the people that are about to graduate, because they're able to get the hours that they need, and they're heavily oversought by their professors and things. So it's all done safely, and it's a win for everyone. And looking for unique ways to get her that emotional healing that she needs is huge, whether it's through the church or through programs like Mending the Soul or counseling, all of that. The next chapter is support her. This is all about adoption for birth moms that place their babies for adoption. I just feel like are so amazing. The fact that they would sacrifice their body for 9 months to save a baby's life is one of the most amazing things that you can ever see or witness. I mean, the moms that I've walked alongside that have done that, it's just, they have wrecked me because of the love that they have for their child is so beautiful. And so how can we help empower birth moms and connecting them to great organizations like Brave Love or Abiding Love Adoptions, because they have the birth mom support groups and things like that. It's all just so needed. They feel like they're even grieving a death, they're pregnant and they're feeling their baby kick and move, and then all of a sudden, even though they know that they feel like they're making the decision that's best for their baby, it still feels like all of a sudden a baby isn't there anymore. And so being able to give her that support that she needs, not only through the pregnancy, but for afterwards. Also, another great organization is Birth Mom Bridges, because they do free retreats for birth moms, whether someone just placed their baby for adoption or you placed your baby for adoption 20 or 30 years ago. You can go on these retreats, and when you're a birth mom, it's really hard to find other birth moms. You kind of feel totally alone. And so being able to go to these retreat type things, or the birth mom support groups, are huge, because they don't feel alone, and they feel like someone out there understands what they went through. And so it's just beautiful. And there's awesome organizations, or even helping with by adopting, or helping with maybe someone that has taken foster children in. How can you help support that family in ways? Because, their life kind of just got rocked by bringing these kids in. And so how can you help them? Maybe it's by bringing them food, or helping them tutor their kids, or giving them one night a week off so that they can have a date night with their husband, whatever that might look like. There's ways that we can wrap around our arms and help the foster families. And I've also seen companies do it. I saw I've seen where there's a haircut chain, and I can't remember it is in my book, but I'm blanking on which one it is. I want to say Tony and Guy, but I don't think it's Tony and Guy. But there's a haircut chain that gives all foster children, if anyone has a foster family that brings in foster children, they get free haircuts for life. Like, that is their thing. And there's also another great organization that's America's Kids Belong. And they have a Dream Project initiative where kids that age out of foster care, they get to have like whatever dream they want. They said one time a foster kid said that he wanted to be a pilot, and so someone funded for him to be able to go to pilot school, and he's a pilot now. And all of that really is future prevention as well, because a lot of kids that age out of foster care sometimes end up with an unplanned pregnancy. So how can we get these kids the support they need, so that they don't find themselves in that situation later? And also, the next chapter is Free Her, Abortion Healing, which, support after abortion is all in the book, because we just really love support after abortion and everything that they're doing. We love that they are they're not just one little niche of abortion healing. They give people, and women and men, all the different ways that they can get the healing they need, whether it's one-on-one, whether it is in a group setting, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a virtual Zoom class, whether it's an actual group where you're sitting with someone else, if it's in a church, if it's in a pregnancy center, or if you just want to watch something online, whatever that person might need in that situation in their life right now with the healing. Support After Abortion is like a concierge service for anyone that needs healing, and they're so grace filled and so amazing, and they connect you to something that feels right to you in this season. And but I just want to encourage too anyone going through abortion healing to then, after you go through abortion healing, get involved in the movement, because we need you. We need your voice. You have a powerful story, and you using your story can actually save lives. So we would love to encourage you to get involved. And so definitely connect with Support After Abortion. I mean, you obviously already are because of this conference, but any way more that you can, if you want to lead a group, whatever that might look like, that's huge. We need more groups. We need more churches that have abortion healing groups. So much. We need to know that these women and men that are in our pews, we know the abortion rate is the same inside the church as it is outside. They need to know that there is healing for them. And I really feel like we can create a revival in our churches when we can help set all of these women and men free. Is huge. And then the next chapter is empower her. So how do we give practical resources? When you're a single mom, it is like life just slapped you in the face, and it's really hard. But we do believe you can have your baby in your dreams too, and you can do this. And it may be a little harder, it may take a little longer, but the church is going to wrap their arms around you, and we're going to help you along the way. So what does it look like to help her practically? Maybe she needs a car. Maybe she needs a better job. Maybe she needs a laptop so she can go to school. I met a mom the other day that wants to go back to school, but she can't afford a laptop. And I'm like, girl, we will get you a laptop. You know, there are so many like sometimes easy things, sometimes more complex ways that we can help her practically be able to thrive, not just survive. So many single moms feel like they're in survival mode, and we want to help her thrive, like really just fly, and whatever that might can look like. And so what is it that you have to offer? I've seen some moms that are really great at coupon cutting, and so they want to help single moms, like show them how to budget. We've seen some moms are really great at cooking. They want to show them how to do easy and simple cooking on a budget. Or there's an organization I know that is Cara, and they help show single moms how to do their budgeting and how to save for their future, even if it feels like it's only $1 a week, you know, whatever that might look like. How can they make better choices for the future financially so that they can have the dreams that they want to have? Pro Love Ministries is an amazing practical organization that is really helping women with their practical needs. I just heard one of my Embrace Grace moms, actually, she's starting a side hustle. She's using Cara Foundation as helping her with starting a new business. She's starting a bath bomb company. So she's a teaching assistant all during the day, but she's been Grubhubbing at night and delivering food because it's something that she can always bring her kid along. And it's just so she can make like an extra $20 to $25 a day, because that kind of helps her get an edge of being on top of things. And so she wants to dream. She doesn't want to keep doing Grubhub, you know, for forever. And so she has this idea of this company called Bomb Moms. It'll be coming out here in the next month or two. So hopefully if y'all see it, y'all can all support her. But it's bath bombs. And it's just amazing to see that the Cara has come alongside her to help her like make a business plan and what that can look like. And then we saw Pro Love Ministries just give her a KitchenAid, totally amazing mixer that is like state of the art, so that she can use that to make the bath bombs. You know, she's got to mix it all together and be the perfect consistency to be able to make the bath bombs. Totally blessed her with that. She didn't even apply for it. It was just like it fell from the sky. God's amazing. And just she got a single mom grant from She Rises, I think it's called, for $1,000 towards her business. All of this is like business grants, and it's all coming together. And she couldn't have been able to do it on her own, but to have these organizations and people that are saying, I can help you with this, I can help you with that. I saw a photographer just donated to give her like a really awesome headshots for her new website and things like that. Like all of us doing something together can really make abortion unthinkable when we can empower her and help her thrive and do the things that God's called her to do. And then I'm almost to the end here. Know Her is the next one. This is really more about prevention, you know, or future prevention, and how can we help her even with sexual education. And there's great organizations like FEM is one of my favorite, FEMM. They have an app and that you can put on your phone. I even use it myself. It helps you with like cycles and knowing all of that, but also about abstinence and how to talk about her value and her worth, and to know, to wait, but also just to know your cycles and to be educated in that area, because a lot of these moms and women just aren't, like, they just don't know. And so how can we help with the future prevention? And even with the church, I struggle because the church for so long has used this, you've lost your purity, this purity talk, your purity ring, and all of that, which is all important, for sure. But we have to be careful on the delivery and the message, because what I'm seeing with a lot of these moms that were raised in the church and find themselves with an unplanned pregnancy, they're throwing their purity ring in the trash because they've lost their purity. When there's no scripture that backs that up, you can't lose your purity. You can lose your virginity, but you can't lose your purity, because when you're a believer, you've been washed white as snow when you ask for forgiveness. But so, like, it's kind of like they've got this mindset, it's all or nothing. I'm dirty now, and so I might as well just go have sex with everyone, and anyone, because I'm dirty. And so we're having to retrain, even in Embrace Grace, about what does it look like to have a pure heart. And what does it look like to allow the Holy Spirit to guide and lead us and gently convict us, and why God makes, these, it's not rules, it's a book of love. Like, why does he love us so much and want us to do these certain things? Because he knows it'll protect our heart. It's retraining their thinking about sex and about prevention, and about just if they find themselves with an unplanned pregnancy. There's one church called Concord, and I talk about it in my book, that's so amazing. They have a lot of men and women in their church for some reason. Well, I mean, I know it's in all of our churches, but they women and men that just live together, and they don't make the commitment for marriage. It's just easier practically sometimes to live together. And so they want to change that. And so they offer 6 months of counseling to these, and then they do to these couples that are living together. And then at the end, they do this big wedding. It's all at one time. So I think they do up to like 8 couples. They get wedding rings, they get dresses, they get flowers, they get cake, they get tuxedos, they get all the counseling, and then the actual event. And it's so magical, so amazing, and it is beautiful. And then if for some reason they go through the whole thing and they actually decide and realize maybe we're not supposed to be together, they will pay their first month's rent and deposit to move out and find a different place to live, because they know that it will help with future unplanned pregnancies. Sometimes women get abortions because they're not with the dad anymore or having relationship problems. So they want to, they're very passionate about families, which I know we all are, and like a healthy family with God and before us. And so they are helping in that way. And it's so creative, that they found a way to give back in that way. And they also lead Embrace Grace at their church as well. But I love that they're helping all of these men and women that are boyfriend and girlfriend living together to be able to live God's way, and by blessing them in that way. And then the last chapter is Embrace Her. And that is like, really, there's so many single moms that's like, I want to know more about the Lord, but I don't know how. Maybe they need to know what podcast to listen to. Like, what are your favorite podcasts? They don't even know where to start in the Bible, So being able to mentor her or get her connected to small groups, even after Embrace Grace, just as a single mom, she needs other women and men that will empower her, to help her, help her connect to podcasts or Bible studies, and just being there for her, checking on her all throughout. Like, we want her to grow roots in the Lord, and to know him, and for her life to be transformed by him. But a lot of them feel overwhelmed because they don't really know where to start. They just kind of open the Bible and they pick a scripture, and sometimes that works, but I know they want to go deeper, but they just need some guidance on how to do that. Or maybe it's helping them get good books to read, or audiobooks to listen to, so that it's helping them grow in their walk with the Lord. And so with all of these chapters I just went over, at the end of every chapter, there are tons and tons of ideas. They're practical ideas. So there's great stories involved, but then each chapter ends with ideas on how to get involved in the movement. So definitely check that out. Check it out. Help Her Be Brave. Discover your place in the pro-life movement. This is it. Also, check out helperbebrave.com. You can take a quiz on helperbebrave.com. And if you're not really sure, I don't know what I'm good at, and I don't know what my strengths are, and I don't know what my passions are. I'm just kind of clueless when it comes to that. And go to helperbebrave.com, take the quiz, and then an email is sent to you after you're done. And it gives you specific ideas of how we think you would do great to serve in the movement. And it gives you ideas like if you're super strategic, if you're more nurturing, if you're more relational, if you're more of an influencer or advocate, or if you're super analytical and you like numbers. There are ways that we can use those strengths and gifts in the movement to help make abortion unthinkable. And so take that little quiz, jump on there, and it'll give you such great ideas. Also, another thing, you can pray about hosting a Helper Be Brave book club, and you can go through it together with your friends, whether you do it virtually like this or you did it in person. And each chapter y'all can go through. And if you go to helperbebrave.com, you can fill out the form that you want to host a book club. And when you do, we give you all kinds of social media graphics, email templates. We give you discussion questions on what to go over each week with the people that are doing the book club with you. That's a great place for all of y'all to brainstorm together. And it's kind of fun when, someone's like, oh my gosh, I just visited a pregnancy center for the first time in my community. I didn't even know that there was one, and I went and toured it. Like, whenever they do that, it kind of sticks and they remember it better. And so you being able to host a book club may help inspire them to actually do something, because you can make little challenges each week, to say, okay, this week we're going to really try to, make a donation to our pregnancy center, or go connect with them and reach out and learn more about them, or take a tour, or whatever that might look like. But are doing each week different challenges, because the more we just try something, God's going to open amazing doors. And each week you're going to have powerful stories of how people were felt empowered by that. So definitely check that out. And we would love to just hear all the great ideas that you guys are out there. And one last thing is the Helper Be Brave podcast show. We're just filmed season 3. You can watch it on YouTube, on the Embrace Grace channel, or you can listen to it on iTunes or Spotify. Subscribe to the channel. It's each week we have a new show where we are interviewing different organizations, different people that are doing things to help make abortion unthinkable. There's so many organizations I have never heard of before, and I'm like, people need to know about you. And so that's what we are wanting to do, and highlight these organizations so people just know, because there might be a show that you listen to and you're like, that's it. That is where I'm supposed to get involved. I'm supposed to do something like that person's doing, or to connect what they are actually doing. And so we just hope that it just gets your brain and heart, feel alive, feel inspired by hearing about all these awesome organizations, and that you'll want to just be the change you want to see in the world. And that's our heart, that we want to do that. So thank you guys so much for all of you listening today. And Nathan, let me know if you want me to do anything else here.
You've been amazing. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A if you'd like to review those, or I can also read them.
Yeah, why don't you read them?
So we have a person introducing themselves, Amy from North Georgia. They have a ministry called Lambs to Lion, and they'd like to find a way to partner with you. They provide Bible studies to women who've had abortions, and like to know how they could get involved with you.
Oh my gosh, yes, for sure. Well, we definitely work with support after abortion. So connecting with them is huge, which is obviously you already are. And then we can add it to, we have a lot of our leaders. We train our leaders that lead Embrace Grace on if we have girls that have had a past abortion, because we've noticed that we do. And sometimes when they're pregnant now and they're feeling their baby kick, it kind of all hits them like, oh, I was pregnant before and I had an abortion, and it kind of all hits them at once. And so we definitely want to refer them to great studies and things. And so we definitely would love to we have a big resource list that we give all of our leaders. So we definitely would be happy to add your ministry to the resource list for the leaders to be able to connect the moms to the resources that they need. So for sure, we love that. You can email me. My email address is amy.ford@embracegrace.com. And you can send me that info. We'll make sure it gets in our resource list.
Wonderful. We have 2 more questions. A lady named Regina's introducing herself as the founder of a Breath of Life Pregnancy Center in New York. She'd like to know how to approach a local church to introduce them to Embrace Grace. So what's the language you would use, and how do you have that conversation with the pastor or ministry leader?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we help with all of that. So we have if you go to embracegrace.com, or one that might be even a little better is prolovechurch.com. And if you go to that, there are, we have like little videos that you can show of pastors that are endorsing our ministry. I know one thing that I've noticed with a light bulb that goes off with pastors is when I say, if Roe v. Wade was overturned tomorrow and abortion became illegal, is your church ready? Is your church ready for the influx of women and men that are going to need support and help practically? So physically, emotionally, and spiritually, are you able to help them? And a lot of times they're not ready. And so having an Embrace Grace group is helping in one way to get the church ready to welcome these moms in, or Embrace Legacy for the dads. And so, but we can help you with all of that. We give you all the tools. We give you a video you can play, and how to approach. That's probably our most commonly asked question. So we have all the answers to that. And just go to prolovechurch.com, fill out the little form there, and an email gets kicked out to you, and it has all the stuff to show your pastor. Plus, we would love to connect with you on the phone and show you as well. But I think I know we know one. Actually, when I was just with Janine a couple weeks ago, there's a guy in Florida, and he has made it his passion to go connect with so many churches, and he has helped start at least 4 groups in Southwest Florida or Southeast Florida. And we're just so amazed by his passion. And I think even more that he doesn't even know that I've started because of that, because of the seeds that he's planted. So we are so thankful for anyone out there that will start. And also I love Breath of Life. I feel like that's just such an awesome name for your pregnancy center. And we would love if you can get some groups going in your area, we would love to get you free love boxes as well. And so we'll work with you and help you get them started and get you all of these love boxes. Just connect with us and we'll help. We have a big groups team that's their job, is to help you do this. So we would be happy to help.
Next question we have is, could you again restate the resources regarding birth moms and the couples that live together? Was that Concord Church, I believe you referenced?
Yeah. So, well, with the birth moms, that Brave Love is a great organization because they are just really telling the stories of birth moms in a way that is empowering and uplifting. But then they also connect girls to support groups. Abiding Love Adoptions is really awesome because they just started a birth mom support group program. And so these birth moms can get connected to others. And then the other one that I mentioned was Birth Mom Bridges, which is a retreat. It's actually in Texas, but you can apply. If you know a birth mom, you can apply, whether you are or someone else, to go to it. And they even cover all of your fees. Like if you're not close to Texas, they fly you out to be able to attend. And it's just an awesome, totally free retreat that brings community to women that have placed their babies for adoption before. So check that one out too. And they're listed in my book as well. And then as for the couples living together, I don't know that it's actually a resource, but it's just one church that is doing this. And I know that several news articles have done stories on it because just so cool. But it is Concord Baptist Church in South Dallas. It's in the Oak Cliff area. And it's Stephanie and Brian Carter are the pastors. And you could even Google Concord Church wedding for single men and women, and you'll see several news articles that did stories and kind of their heart behind it. I did just record a podcast with her on the Help Her Be Brave podcast show, but it doesn't air, I think, for another month or two, but be on the lookout for that as well, because we interviewed Stephanie and she's amazing. But in the meantime, check out maybe some of the news articles because they kind of go into more detail about even the stats of how many marriages that they've conducted and even how many have stayed married, which I don't have it in front of me, but it was an awesome stat of how they really are strengthening families by giving back in this way. And I know so many of our Embrace Grace moms that do live with their boyfriends, it's either practical reasons, it's just cheaper or whatever, and he's not ready to commit. But then sometimes it's like they have this dream of having a wedding, and so they want to save, but they're in such survival mode that they just can't afford, it's hard to save for that. So they just kind of end up in this cycle of, living together, but I love how they're teaching and training these couples on God's way, and then let us help you do it God's way. Totally awesome.
Well, Amy, we've reached the end, and you are so amazing. It's been such a privilege to get to work with you, collaborate. We love all the work that you're doing. We are huge supporters of your ministry. Thank you for all the additional time you gave us today.
Sure.
And if there are additional questions, they can be routed to you. You've given your email. We'll be posting the recording by Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. And to those participants, you can feel free to join us at the top of the hour for the next presentation. Thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you.